Hi, students. Welcome back. Today we're going to finish working with Michelangelo. He is probably my favorite Renaissance artist and sculpture. Um, it's between him and Da Vinci, but I feel like Michelangelo, I just admire his work more. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just I like Michelangelo more. Today we'll focus on some of his major works, his personality, his devotion to religion. So he's not just Michelangelo. He has a full name, Del Ludovico Buonarroti. Simeone, his long name. He was born in the late 1400s. He lived around the same time as Da Vinci. He is one of the best well documented artists of the 16th century, so the 1500s. He was from northern Italy, and he had several skills, and he was really good at them, particularly sculpting. He was also an architect. He helped develop the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. He's a poet and also an engineer. Um, and obviously, he was an artist. Interesting facts. Divine means that he was special. He was born around the same time as Galileo and Shakespeare. He is considered one of the greatest artists in history, pretty much, not just the Renaissance, but in history. His father did not want him to become an artist. I think you saw that in the video. He thought that there was no future in that. Michelangelo continued to push. He didn't want to just become an artist. He wanted to become a sculptor. Um, so he had a pretty tough childhood. His mom died when he was fairly young. Um, but from the very young age, he wanted to pursue the arts. Um, he actually developed the skill fairly early, as it says in the slides. At 23, he created the Pieta, and people thought that people did not give him credit for creating the Pieta. And in a rage, he signed the Pieta his name. That's the only work that we know of that he actually signed. This is so the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel is a massive work that he spent years painting. And one thing that I want you to understand is the majority of Michelangelo's works were religious. Um, Someone said that David is a secular piece. No, the David is not a secular piece. The David comes from the Old Testament. Moses comes from the Old Testament. He did the majority of his works are religious. The whole ceiling of the Sistine Chapel is made up of stories of the Old Testament, the creation of Adam, the creation of Eve, the Great Flood. This one that you're seeing on the slide is the creation of Adam. It's when God gives Adam life. Most of Michelangelo's paintings are very powerful. They're very muscular. They literally look like statues themselves. If you look at this painting, he looks like a statue. He didn't. He didn't. From my understanding, he did not necessarily like to paint, but he had very powerful patrons like the Medici family and the popes that asked him. And when they asked him, they didn't really ask him. It was more like they told him. For example, on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, he said, "This is not my profession. I don't want to paint. I'm wasting my time and all for nothing. May God help me." So he saw himself primarily as a sculptor and not a painter. Even though he did not see himself as a painter, he was an incredible painter, one of the greatest painters in the history of the world. Again, most of his work was religious, but still very realistic, still heavily impacted by the classical humanism of making um, beautiful pictures of people. This is the tomb of Julius II. Julius II was a pope. Here you see the statue of Moses. Again, what I want you to understand is he spent years creating these statues that were anatomically correct, very perfect, very very perfect structures. very structures filled with emotion, structures that are very realistic. You can see the veins, you can see the frowns, you can see the muscles. This is probably the most famous statue in the world. This is the David. I believe it's like 10 to 14 feet high, very realistic, um, very strong emotions. Um, and this is also another religious piece, not secular, religious piece. The Pieta is the Virgin Mary holding dead Christ. Someone said that the Pieta is a secular piece. No, it's not. The Pieta is a religious piece. The dead Christ being held by the Virgin Mary. The realism, how the arm falls, the drapery. Yeah, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. When you go to college, one thing that you should do is study abroad. I studied abroad in Rome. I saw this firsthand, and when you see something, when you study something, and then you see it for the first time, it's you are in awe. It is an amazing piece, and here you might be able to tell the this is the creation of Adam. Here, if you zoom in, like zoom in here, this is when God kicks Adam and Eve out of Eden for disobeying Him. There's a couple other ones. This is another picture, the Last Judgment. This is Jesus. Doesn't look like Jesus, but these are the people that have been saved, and these are the people that have been damned. Here you see the devils pushing people into hell. Here you see the angels pulling people up into heaven. So these are people that have been saved, and these are people that will go to hell. It's a depiction of the second coming of the Christ and the apocalypse. Personality of Michelangelo, incredible, very similar to today, my opinion. People that are incredibly talented, but also they have a couple issues. Michelangelo was no exception. He had very little social life. He barely ate and drank, and lived like a homeless person. And that's not something to laugh about. He was obsessed with perfection. As you can tell from his works, he is utterly obsessed, and what comes out is something that is incredible. A bit paranoid, thought that people were after him, or people wanted to copy his work. And incredibly creative. Michelangelo in literature, he was also a poet. Poems to his boyfriend. Michelangelo was gay, and so was Da Vinci. So he is not given as much credit for his writing, probably because we focus so much on the architecture, not necessarily the architecture, but the sculpture and the arts, because these two are so ahead of their time, so incredible. This is the dome that he designed. There was other people that helped design the dome, so he's not given full credit. This is St. Peter's Basilica, created in the 1500s. Yeah, Michelangelo is an incredible person. I strongly suggest that you look up on YouTube. There's a whole lot of con videos on different parts of his on different parts of his on different works. If you go to Michelangelo, if you type in Michelangelo in YouTube, you'll be able to see a lot of these, like the ceiling, the Last Judgment, Michelangelo's Moses. So I suggest that you watch some of these just to give you a better idea of them. I'm not going to make you watch them, but if you are interested in arts of Michelangelo, these are more specific in giving you a better idea of the work that went into these works, and gives you more detail. Um, Tomorrow, so you're watching this video today. We'll finish Michelangelo today. In the next 2 days, we're going to work on Da Vinci, and then we're going to be having a quiz on Monday. Please check my YouTube channel so that you can work on the study guide. I miss you all, and be awesome.